Do ketone supplements actually make athletes faster? Before we start, make sure to subscribe to Sports Science Insight. Here, we break down sports science research into clear, practical, and evidence-based insights for athletes, coaches, students, and practitioners. In this video, we are examining the review titled, The Science of Ketogenic Supplements for Athletes, Boosting Endurance, Efficiency, and Energy Metabolism. It was published in Nutrition and Metabolism in 2026 by Siri and colleagues. The promise behind ketone supplements sounds attractive. Increase blood ketones, burn more fat, save muscle glycogen, and maintain energy during prolonged exercise. But the real question is not whether ketones change metabolism. They clearly can. The real question is whether those metabolic changes produce better performance. And this is where the evidence becomes much more complicated. Changing fuel use is not the same as improving performance. Let's break it down. The first thing we need to understand is that not all ketogenic supplements are the same. The review discusses three main categories. The first is ketone salts. These usually provide beta-hydroxybutyrate attached to minerals such as sodium, potassium, calcium, or magnesium. They can increase blood ketones, but generally produce lower concentrations than ketone esters. The second category is ketone esters. These are more potent and can raise blood beta-hydroxybutyrate much more rapidly. But they are also expensive, often have an unpleasant taste, and may cause gastrointestinal discomfort or changes in acid-base balance. The third category is MCT oil, or medium-chain triglyceride oil. MCTs are rapidly metabolized by the liver and can indirectly increase ketone production, but their effect is usually smaller and slower. So when someone says, "I used ketones," we still need to ask, which product, which dose, and what blood ketone response did it actually create? These products do not produce the same physiological effect. Once ketones enter the bloodstream, working muscles can use them as an energy source. The main ketone body discussed in sports nutrition is beta-hydroxybutyrate, or beta-HB. Inside the muscle cell, ketones are converted into acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA then enters the TCA cycle inside the mitochondria. This supports ATP production, so ketones are a real fuel. But there is one important limitation. Ketone metabolism is primarily aerobic. It requires oxygen and mitochondrial processing. That makes ketones more suitable for sustained energy production than for extremely rapid energy demands. The review also discusses ketones as signaling molecules. Beta-HB may influence pathways connected with mitochondrial function, oxidative metabolism, and cellular stress. These mechanisms are scientifically interesting, but a plausible mechanism is not the same as a proven performance benefit. The body may use the fuel successfully without producing a faster race time. The main endurance promise is glycogen sparing. Muscle glycogen is limited. During long-duration exercise, especially at moderate to high intensity, glycogen gradually declines. When glycogen availability becomes too low, pace and power may fall. Ketone supplements are supposed to provide an additional fuel source. The theory is simple. Use more ketones and fat during the early stages of exercise. Save carbohydrate for later, and delay fatigue. This idea is especially attractive for cyclists, runners, triathletes, and ultra-endurance athletes. Some studies show that ketone ingestion increases circulating beta-HB, lowers the respiratory exchange ratio, and shifts fuel utilization away from carbohydrates. But there is a critical question. Was glycogen actually preserved? And if it was preserved, did the athlete perform better? Those outcomes are not always connected. The theory is attractive, but performance must be measured directly. This is the central lesson from the human trials. Ketone supplementation often changes laboratory markers. Blood beta-HB increases. The respiratory exchange ratio may decrease. Fat or ketone oxidation may increase. Blood lactate may decrease in some protocols. These findings confirm that the supplement changed metabolism. But race performance often remained unchanged. Some cycling trials found no improvement in time trial performance. Some running studies found no improvement over 5 or 10 kilometers. Other studies found no benefit in maximal cycling power or sprint performance. This distinction is essential. A laboratory marker can move in a direction that looks physiologically interesting, but the athlete may still finish the race in the same time. A better metabolic marker does not guarantee a faster race. That is why sports nutrition must evaluate performance outcomes, not only blood measurements. The review summarizes a broader evidence pattern that is difficult to ignore. Across 10 trials and 16 performance outcomes, 3 outcomes were positive, 10 were neutral, and 3 were negative. This does not mean ketone supplements never work, but it does mean the current evidence is inconsistent. Some studies used ketone esters. Others used ketone salts. The doses were different. The athletes had different training levels. Some consumed carbohydrates with the ketones. Others tested ketones under lower carbohydrate conditions. Exercise protocols ranged from steady-state endurance work to time trials, sprints, and repeated high-intensity efforts. So context matters, but the overall evidence does not support a universal performance advantage. Higher blood ketones are easy to demonstrate. A meaningful improvement in competitive performance is much harder to demonstrate. The current evidence is mixed, not universally positive. Why might ketone supplements fail during high-intensity exercise? Because high-intensity performance requires very rapid ATP production. Sprinting, jumping, heavy lifting, and repeated explosive actions depend strongly on phosphocreatine and glycolysis. These systems can produce energy very quickly. Ketone metabolism is slower and oxygen-dependent. It may support endurance metabolism, but it cannot replace the rapid ATP turnover needed for maximal power. One study cited in the review found that ketone salts increased fat oxidation but reduced high-intensity cycling performance by approximately 7%. Another study in elite professional cyclists reported performance impairment of approximately 2% after ketone diester ingestion. In elite competition, 2% is not a small difference. It can separate victory from a poor result. So athletes should not assume that using more fat or ketones is always beneficial. For high-intensity sport, carbohydrates and phosphocreatine remain essential. Ketones can support the engine, but they do not necessarily support the explosion. Ketones may also influence recovery-related pathways. The review discusses possible effects on oxidative stress, inflammation, muscle protein signaling, and cognitive fatigue. Beta-HB may influence inflammatory pathways such as the NLRP3 inflammasome. Ketone ingestion may also affect cellular signaling connected with mTORC1 and muscle remodeling. Some studies suggest possible cognitive benefits during prolonged or mentally demanding exercise. These findings are promising, but we must separate biological signaling from practical recovery. A change in a molecular pathway does not automatically mean less soreness, faster muscle repair, better performance the next day, or a lower injury risk. Many studies are small, short-term, or use indirect markers. The effect may also vary according to training status, exercise type, sleep, diet, and individual physiology. So the appropriate conclusion is not that ketones dramatically accelerate recovery. The appropriate conclusion is that recovery mechanisms are promising, but performance proof remains limited. Another major source of confusion is the difference between ketone supplementation and keto adaptation. Drinking a ketone ester can raise blood ketones within 30 to 60 minutes. But the effect lasts only a few hours. Long-term keto adaptation is different. It usually develops after weeks of consistent dietary carbohydrate restriction. During that period, enzymes, transport systems, mitochondrial pathways, and whole-body fuel selection may adapt. A single drink cannot reproduce all of those changes. This matters because some long-term ketogenic diet studies report adaptations that are sometimes attributed incorrectly to acute ketone supplements. These are not equivalent interventions. A drink provides temporary exogenous ketosis. A ketogenic diet produces a broader physiological adaptation. Even then, long-term ketogenic diets may have advantages for fat oxidation while still creating challenges for high-intensity performance. So we must compare like with like. Ketone drink does not equal keto-adapted athlete. The effect of ketone supplementation depends heavily on context. Dose matters. Timing matters. The type of supplement matters. Carbohydrate availability matters. Exercise intensity matters. And individual tolerance matters. Ketone esters can raise beta-HB more effectively, but they may also reduce blood pH and bicarbonate. That may interfere with buffering during intense exercise. Ketone salts may provide a significant mineral load. MCT oil may cause gastrointestinal discomfort. Higher doses may create nausea, bloating, cramps, or diarrhea. Cost is another practical limitation. An expensive product that changes blood markers but does not improve performance may not be a useful investment. Individual response is also highly variable. Some athletes may respond positively. Others may experience no effect. And some may perform worse. That is why athletes should never test a new ketone protocol for the first time on race day. The protocol must match the athlete, the event, and the fueling strategy. So, what are the practical takeaways? First, ketone supplements reliably raise blood ketones. Second, they can change fuel utilization and increase reliance on fat or ketone metabolism. Third, those metabolic changes do not consistently improve performance. Fourth, potential benefits appear more plausible in prolonged endurance contexts than in sprint, strength, or high-power sports. Fifth, ketones should not replace carbohydrates when rapid energy production is required. Sixth, a ketone drink is not the same as long-term keto adaptation. And finally, recovery benefits remain promising but not definitively proven. The most responsible approach is individualized testing under the supervision of a qualified sports nutrition professional. Measure actual performance, monitor gastrointestinal tolerance, consider cost, and compare the strategy against a well-designed carbohydrate plan. The bottom line is this: ketone supplements may alter metabolism, but their performance benefits remain context-dependent. Use ketones as a tool, not as a shortcut. If this video helped you, leave a like, subscribe to Sports Science Insight, and stay tuned for more evidence-based breakdowns on sports nutrition, training, recovery, and performance. And tell me in the comments, would you test ketone supplements for endurance performance, or do you think carbohydrates remain the better strategy? See you in the next breakdown.